And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The $5,000 prize up to $5,000 can be yours. The Kevin Miller cash code. Our word today, code 1 is lift. That's lift. Check that out today. Code 1 is lift. Joining us now is DEF CON 1's Dan Gaynor from the Media Research Center. Dan, good morning.
Good morning to you. What's the weather out there in the lovely area you guys have with my family?
Not bad. It was a little wet early in the morning yesterday, and about probably in the 60s today.
Oh, I hate you. It was 38 here in the Mid-Atlantic. You would think it was still winter. Oh, that's right, because it's global warming.
Boy, I hate it when that happens, especially nor'easters and everything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's April 17th. We're 3 weeks into baseball season, and it's still 38 degrees. Can you imagine if instead of overly cold, it was overly warm? The media in the Mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C., where the nation's media are, would be going nuts about climate change instead of Comey.
Well, I guess we have to get to good old Jim. Your thoughts about that hard-hitting interview with George Stephanopoulos?
I'm trying to have one guy who's trying to hurt the Republican president interviewed by another guy who used to work for a Democratic president. This seems like everything wrong with ethics in journalism. I'm not even sure ethics in journalism even works anymore as a concept. It's one of those oxymoronic things. And mostly since it's ABC, just moronic. No hardball questions. The only thing he seems to be annoyed with is that Donald Trump got elected. And they could just have a little club. Like, okay, we're both annoyed that Donald Trump got elected.
Yeah, I don't understand. This guy's supposed to be a tough guy, but then he talks about portraying himself as a victim.
This is a weird thing because, he has unified the Republicans and Democrats for different reasons. Both sides hate him. The only people who really like James Comey are media people because they figure he'll get him a lot of press, and it gives them a chance to put somebody on there who's an authority figure who they can say, well, he hates Donald Trump. Everybody hates him. What does that mean?
Well, what do you make of just the allegations that continue to swirl around James Comey and his interview with Stephanopoulos? I'm trying to think of what type of meter could we use to judge it on.
Well, nothing we could say on radio. Good. We use a reference that I'll let people interpret on their own for yellow journalism. For how many times at CBS CNN had talked about a certain tape citing Comey, and it was a lot. CNN, which exists basically now as a PAC against Donald Trump. And it stopped being a news organization. It exists as an anti-Trump PAC. If you accept that, then you're not surprised. I mean, Think Progress probably used it a lot too. HuffPost probably used it a lot. That's what the lefty media has become. And CNN is an embarrassing lefty media outlet.
Well, what I don't get, and maybe this is my problem, I'm turning into watching the Libs over the weekend, Dan. I didn't have anything else to do, so
a little masochism for the weekend.
Yeah, it gets you fired up. So I'm watching our friend A.M. Joy, and she was just salivating to get rid of the Syrian coverage in between giving the Russians, the Syrians, the Iranians the benefit of the doubt, saying that this really didn't do anything. After she got through with her panel of experts there, it was right to James Comey, it was right to Michael Cohen. And, sometimes in the news business, you have to follow the news, but you could tell they were torn because they wanted to do James Comey all the time.
Well, they wanted to do James Comey because they wanted to do Stormy Daniels, because they wanted to do Parkland, because they wanted to do Madeleine Albright. It's absolutely whoever the flavor of the day is attacking Donald Trump. Comey's, of the four, the Parkland kids and Comey are probably the most notable because of circumstances. But basically, the media don't care. They promote absolutely anybody. If Trump's garbage man decided to come out like, I remember the year he gave me a bad tip. He'd be all over the news. I've never seen anything like this. If you were looking at this from another country looking at the United States, you would have to conclude that we're in the midst of a coup. And, I mean, that's certainly the media are trying to unseat Donald Trump. They're not trying to cover the news. They are trying to unseat the president. If you understand that, then everything flows from that. That's what they want to do. That's what CNN, that's the whole existence of CNN now, is to try to unseat the president. I've never seen anything like it in a functioning democracy.
Well, here's the other thing. Dan Gaynor joining us, Media Research Center, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. They elected Barack Obama. They got Barack Obama reelected. So why not try and see if they have unfettered power by getting rid of a president?
Well, you have to remember, the media considered the high point of journalism in America was what?
The election of Obama or Watergate?
No, Watergate. To take down, so they learned all the wrong lessons. They learned that with enough media, you can take down a Republican president. Not you can take down a president. Take down a Republican president. That's all the media exists to do now. And CNN has basically, put all of its chips on the table to take down Donald Trump. They won't be satisfied if he's defeated in 2020. He must be defeated by the press before then because he shouldn't have been elected. The media reaction is simply they were sure that Donald Trump was going to lose. He ran against them. No one has ever run against them and won. He ran against them and won, so this is retaliation. I mean, it is the most petty, anti-democratic, anti-freedom, anti-American thing you can imagine.
Dan Gaynor joining us, Media Research Center. Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. I would agree with you on that. And now the independent prosecutor, special prosecutor, and everybody else, the folks from the Southern District, if you watch Billions, the Paul Giamatti U.S. District office going after Michael Cohen, Sean Hannity now in the crosshairs. And you've known Sean for years, Dan. It was just funny how he handled it on radio and TV last night. A complete pro. The way he points things out, it's as if he's gotten some lessons from you guys on pointing out the hypocrisy of the media.
Well, yeah, the idea that the media who hire basically anybody who ever has opposed Donald Trump gets a job. Yeah, so the only way you get on CNN, for instance, is if you're a liberal and you oppose Donald Trump. Well, you're welcome. Van Jones, here's a show. Wait, you were 9/11 truther? Doesn't matter. Here's a show. Oh, wait, we got to put some conservatives or Republicans on. All right, well, we'll get rid of all those people who are supporting Donald Trump. We're just going to put Never Trumpers on there. Now, some of the people on Never Trumpers I would consider even to be people I like or, friends, etc. But they're still Never Trumpers. They put out one brand of information. It's not a news network. It's a propaganda outlet. It's a pack against Donald Trump and one of the leader of the pack, Brian Stelter, the guy who allegedly is a journalist who spends more time opinionating than anybody else.
Finally, our great friend Joe Scarborough, the hard-hitting conservative, host of Morning Mika, saying that you're stupid and incompetent if you believe there's a conspiracy against Donald Trump. So I guess that's where we are.
Well, I mean, a conspiracy implies a secret cabal. They're not being secret. They're flat out openly declaring this is what they're doing. They are out to get Donald Trump. And here's a key point, and this is where Hannity and others come involved. Absolutely anybody connected to Donald Trump. Absolutely anybody. That means his wife. That means his kids. That certainly means, his son-in-law. That means members of his cabinet. That means anybody connected to him in business, his lawyer, his supporters in the conservative media. Absolutely anyone. Because you can't, this is why they went after Kelly. This is why the only person the media have generally stayed away from is Mattis, and I think they fear him. so that's probably why. But everybody else they've gone after. Look at the disgusting way the media treated Kellyanne Conway, who's one of the most successful political women in American history. Just an absolutely stunningly nice and brilliant lady. And they treat her, Saturday Night Live treats her like a trollop, and everybody else just abuses her in the press. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, fantastic press secretary. Again, they make fun of her looks. You did this stuff. If Republicans or conservatives did this kind of stuff, the media would skewer them. It's no holds barred against Team Trump. And not just that, they want to make sure that they have no jobs when they leave. This is scorched earth.
Dan Gainor joining us. Dan, we're going to get you out on this one. I think ABC might have a little trouble with their latest correspondent, Chris Christie. Let's see. Do we have hold on. I'm trying to see if the sound is working here.
It's a really sad day because to hear Jim sit in your interview and say that he considered the polling when deciding.
He didn't say he considered. He said he was influenced.
Well, okay, George. When I worked for Jim, if I had said to him 11 days before an election that I was going to release information that could potentially affect the election, and one of the things that influenced me was polling, he would have fired me. He would have fired me on the spot. And it is really disconcerting to me as a guy who worked with him and for him and have defended him on this air and other places over the years to see this interview and what he was saying. It is exactly what they teach you not to do. And
there we have it. So refreshingly, somebody good on ABC to counteract everything is evil Matthew Dowd.
Yeah, well, I'm reminding me why back in 2011 or 2012, before Mitt Romney picked his VP, I wrote a piece saying that he should consider picking Chris Christie because Americans like bombastic large guys, and I did from Ralph Cramden through Fred Flintstone to
Sure.
on through, and I'll be honest, I think Mitt Romney would have won if he had picked Chris Christie. Paul Ryan was awful pick, and the charisma of a wet diaper. Chris Christie, that was before all sorts of troubles befell him. He was actually very popular, and when he's smart and when he presents himself well on TV, does a real good job. Americans, we like our big guys. From Babe Ruth, remember we like. And particularly irascible big guys. Think Fred Flintstone.
I'm with you. And Barney. Our great friend Dan Gainor with us. Dan, always appreciate the great work the Media Research Center does. Keep up the good work. And to all the West Coast Gainors living here in the Treasure Valley. By the way, I don't know if you caught the Wall Street Journal piece on Boise the other day. Boise, Idaho feels the growing pains of a surging population. So we still have room for you if you'd like to move here.
Well, I was going to say, the surging population, I blame my brother and my sister-in-law since they've had 4 kids.
Dan, you have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Our great friend Dan Gainor. Kevin Miller here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KID. Remember, coming up this week, we'll be at Compass Public Charter School in Meridian, promoting our schools, securing our future thanks to our friends at CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. Grade Power Learning in Meridian as well. So many people involved with the schools. Great to be back in the community promoting good, solid education. Coming up next, we will talk about this Wall Street Journal case, focusing in on Boise, feeling the growing pains of the surging population. But it's, as we've said, and you have taught me so much here, it's not just Boise, great city, capital city, overly taxed, God bless them, a lot of libs. It is the entire Treasure Valley when we're talking Caldwell, when we're home of Indian Creek Steakhouse, when we're talking Nampa, when we're talking, of course, Meridian and all the other communities in Ada and Canyon County. We'll talk about it next. Population growth, your solutions next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hey, have you checked out what's at KIDOTalkRadio.com lately? If you do, you'll see what we're giving away for Thank You Thursdays. Kevin Miller's Dinner from Indian Creek Steakhouse. You've got the Cowboy and Turf and the Rancher. It'll make your mouth water, those great dinners. You can check those out at Indian Creek Steakhouse at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Just our little way of saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, big news last night. Before we get to that, though, I do want to play this
Here from the former FBI.
this Chris Christie clip one more time when we're talking about James Comey and what would have happened if Christie, who worked for Comey, would have done the same thing 11 days before an election.
Well, I have to tell you, as somebody who worked with Jim Comey and then for Jim Comey, it's a really sad day. Because to hear Jim sit in your interview and say that he considered the polling when deciding...
He didn't say he considered, he said he was influenced.
Well, okay, George, when I worked for Jim, if I had said to him 11 days before an election that I was going to release information that could potentially affect the election, and one of the things that influenced me was polling, he would have fired me. He would have fired me on the spot. And it is really disconcerting to me as a guy who worked with him and for him and have defended him on this air and other places over the years to see this interview and what he was saying. It is exactly what they teach you not to do. And I think it's unfortunate that Jim's, who's a good guy, a good family man, a good person, and was a very good prosecutor, but he began to believe his own press clippings. And it's the biggest danger in public life. And the hubris that he shows in that interview is extraordinary to me and not the guy that I worked with or worked for. And it's sad.
There we have it. Chris Christie laying the smackdown there on Jim Comey. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Plus, Sean Hannity has to meet the press. By the way, you can catch Sean weekday afternoons here beginning at 3 at KIDO Talk Radio. First, 6:26, time for traffic. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So if you caught Sean Hannity's show yesterday, Sean Hannity was revealed to be a client of Michael Cohen. Well, Mr. Hannity, our great friend, had a chance to react to that. This is what he said yesterday at KIDO Talk Radio.
My discussions with Michael Cohen never rose to any level that I needed to tell anyone that I was asking him questions. And to be absolutely clear, they never involved any matter, sorry to disappoint so many, matter between me or third party, a third group at all. And my questions exclusively almost focused on real estate. I said many times on my radio show, I hate the stock market. I prefer real estate. Michael knows real estate.
And there we have it.
I never asked Michael Cohen to bring this proceeding on my behalf. I have no personal interest in this legal matter. That's all there is, nothing more.
So there we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, Michael Cohen and Sean Hannity. And really what they're doing is saying that anybody associated with Donald Trump, anybody associated with the president, whether you're working for him or not, you are fair game. And remember, if you worked for Hillary Clinton, you were Huma Abedin, your husband could be a predator on Twitter, you could be a convicted whatever of Anthony Weiner, and yet you still got the benefit of the doubt. Here you have an independent, conservative, moral media person being outed for conversations he had, innocent conversations, like you go up to an attorney and say, hey, I'd like to know this, I'd like to know that. Basically, it's blatant intimidation. What Comey and the folks in the Southern District of New York are trying to do is trying to derail anyone associated with President Trump. And again, what was the big deal? Why did the judge need to know this? And I bet that the judge was an Obama appointee, or, for that matter, could have been a Bush appointee.
Michael Cohen never represented me in any legal matter. I never retained his services. I never received an invoice. I never paid Michael Cohen for legal fees. I did have occasional brief conversations with Michael Cohen. He's a great attorney, about legal questions I had, or I was looking for input and perspective.
Input and perspective. This whole thing is ridiculous. And now we start to see the plot that continues to build, the plot that continues to circle around President Trump. This has nothing to do with the special prosecutor. This has nothing to do with Russia. What this has to do with is a way of intimidating the president, saying, we're going to reveal everything. If they can raid your personal attorney's office, if they can raid your safe deposit box, and we're talking about a sitting president, you can't tell me that they're looking for a reason to get rid of the president. That's what this is. And to put it to the Southern District is you can't fire them. Well, you have to have the Attorney General. And I've been a fan of Jeff Sessions as long as I've known him, which is over 20 years. You'd have to have them fire the person in New York and fire the special prosecutor. of course, that would lead to more talk of impeachment. And let's face it, if the Democrats win the House, that's what they're going to do. So we've got to get our act together. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Rachel Sutherland on Capitol Hill with the very latest from our proud big Fox home, Fox News Radio. In addition to that, we'll talk about the population growth. The Wall Street Journal covering our problems here. As if there's not enough for them to cover, they're opining about the idea that you need a restaurant reservation these days. Strange days indeed. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And KIDO Talk Radio out to Washington, D.C. Fox News Radio's Rachel Sutherland. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Boy, it's like the Cold War all over again. We're slapping sanctions back and forth. It's tough to keep up with these things.
Well, it is, especially when it looks like the White House now is walking back Nikki Haley's announcement on Sunday. She's the U.S. ambassador to the UN that the White House is going to announce new sanctions on Russia yesterday for its role in the chemical attack in Syria. Now, according to the Washington Post and some others, the New York Times, we know for sure they're not into effect, but the question is why and what happened there. The Post and the Times reporting that perhaps the president thought that Nikki Haley got ahead of the administration, that the sanctions weren't yet, officially announced, and so right now they're described as being in a holding pattern. On top of this, you have the independent inspectors trying to get into this to the site of the suspected attack in Durma and haven't been able to get in. And we're not sure why. These are the folks with the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. They've been in Syria since Saturday, but they have not been able to access this site.
Reminds me of the old days of maybe Iraq or Iran. I guess it would be both, where you would have the UN inspectors going in, and all of a sudden, hey, we're going to do this, and they would be delayed. It just kind of brings back the 90s to me.
Yeah, it does sound familiar, and we're understanding, though, that Russia has had access to the site. In fact, the U.S. is accusing Russia of having tampered with evidence there. They deny that. The foreign minister on the BBC said that was not true. So, I mean, someone's lying. And then you have the Syrian delegation at the UN saying they absolutely didn't do it. So it's really confusing at the moment. But until these inspectors get in, we may not know exactly what is going on.
And even if they do get in, we'll wonder if what's going on. People will allege that if there's nothing there, then perhaps things were moved. If that is indeed possible, it is such a shell game. When we take a look at Capitol Hill, is Congress back to work yet? It's almost to the point where I can't tell if they're home or they're away when it comes to their work level.
I don't have Congress's schedule right in front of me because I was on this topic, but with everything having been passed with tax reform, in some respects, it does feel a little lame ducky. And then with the departure of Paul Ryan, they say they'll get stuff done like infrastructure and some other things, but they've gotten a lot done with the budget, a long-term budget having been signed into law, and the tax reform package. I think now a lot of these politicians are focusing on the midterms and trying, in particular, Republicans trying to hold on to the House, where with the departure or the pending departure of Paul Ryan, his saying he's going to leave, some fear have impact on Republican races. Others say it really doesn't matter, but he is definitely a fundraising powerhouse.
For someone who has covered Paul Ryan for years, how big a story is this?
I think for Inside Washington, it's a pretty big story. For the folks in Janesville, Wisconsin, it's a big story. I think that sometimes things get a bit wonky, and that folks, if they know who Paul Ryan is, I don't think it's going to impact them on a daily basis, who is Speaker of the House. I think we tend to get all caught up in it. And then when they have another election, what'll matter is whether or not Republicans hold on to the House come this fall. Ryan's staying on until January anyway. But if Democrats take control, you could see someone like maybe Nancy Pelosi taking the gavel again. And then people might perk up and pay attention.
Rachel, you woke us up this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Rachel Sutherland joining us here exclusively on 580 KIDO and 107.5 FM. By the way, coming up, we'll speak with John Decker, and the Washington Post did a good job. It's on my personal Facebook page of covering just how significant the questions are that John Decker asks. And we're your exclusive home for Fox News Radio here in the Treasure Valley, and they actually have a transcript of our interview going back and forth heard right here on KIDO Talk Radio last week, which was, it's always nice to get acknowledged by the national press I found in my career the national press has a tendency to be a little bit more honest than the local press that gets caught up in, I don't know, rivalries or what have you. But it's great when KIDO Talk Radio and you, along with John Decker, are mentioned in the Washington Post. So quite an honor for this program. We appreciate that. Coming up, the Wall Street Journal, Boise, Idaho feels the growing pains of a surging population. Locals cope with rising home prices, traffic. Quote, you have to plan ahead for a restaurant reservation now. By the way, Congressman Labrador will join us, candidate for governor, next hour. Let's go to the phones, and we'll start with Liberty Linda and Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Well, I certainly hope the Democrats don't take over the House. I mean, aren't we all kind of shaking about that?
It would not be a good day for all of us.
Right, I agree. And, I agree with the other person that, I think that Paul Ryan was a bad choice, and I think Chris Christie would have been a better choice for Mitt Romney to have made at that time.
Well, you certainly have Mitt Romney would have had a guy that would have had his back more so than Paul Ryan when we're talking about going up against Joe Biden. That would have been an interesting debate.
I agree. It had been wonderful. And why in the world? I thought this Syria thing was a setup to begin with. It was staged. And, I can't believe that our president fell for it. I'm very sad that he fell for it. And what happened in regard to that, most of what he's done, I've been very happy about. But not these two times that he's done this. I don't know what to think about it. That's not good.
Well, I think you and I are on the different paths there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, there are many out there that think that it was staged. And anyway, not that we shouldn't. I think our military is the most important thing we should have. We should have a strong military. So in regard to the bill he passed, that part of it I like. We need to be the strongest in this world. I agree with that. And I wanted to thank you for my John Wilkes Booth book. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate you swinging by, and thank you for my coffee mug.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. You are the king of radio. I promised that to you at your birthday party. And, Kevin, have you ever seen a shadow person?
No, I haven't. Oh, I haven't.
You haven't?
Have you?
I have 6 different interesting stories to share on the George Norrie Show. One of them are about these shadow people. And I've known 2 people that actually worked at Area 51, and they tell amazing stories of what they've done. I have one friend that said that he used to go out, and when a spaceship would crash, he would pick up the dead bodies and take them back in. So anyway, there are some very interesting
you're starting to scare
me
right now.
Well, I can't verify that what he said was true, but I can verify that he did work there. I do know that. And I know another person who did as well. So we have interesting things every day, what's going on with our president. You don't hardly have a minute to sit and wait, and then you have something else to talk about. You can hardly stick on to one subject, Kevin.
They're coming to get us.
I know it, but the most important part is that we love you. You keep us tuned in, wondering what's going to happen next. Look at Boise is like one of the most talked about towns in the United States right now. Everyone knows. So many people are moving here, and because it's a wonderful area.
I would agree.
Very interesting what's going on. So
well, you're always very interesting.
Thanks, Kevin. There are other things I'd like to talk about, but I don't want to scare you more.
Thank you. I'm a little sheepish today. I appreciate it, Liberty Linda.
Okay, Kevin. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. By the way, I do want to remind you, today at the Capitol, 11 o'clock, we'll be there commemorating Patriots Day with our friends Carrie Shepard and Eric Parker. We're a proud part of that, and we want to thank them for inviting us. That's today at 11 o'clock. Joining us now is Tom Munz, TomMunz.com, Munz Tom Twitter. Good morning, Tom.
You're not sheepish, Kevin. Well, I just wanted to call, and I had to give a shout-out to a guy named Johnny Rev because he keeps sending me postcards.
Oh, wait a minute.
Who he is.
Hold on. So, wait a minute. It's you, Mike Miniger, Dave Petzo, David Leroy, me, Tea Party Bob that are part of Postcard Man. Postcard Man got you.
Are you getting postcards too?
Oh, no, I'm the original
Anyway.
Postcard Man, yes. So, yes.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, well, I had to do that because they just keep coming. But I wanted to, and I didn't mean to go sideways on you like I usually do, but I guess that's just my nature. I just wanted to call and tell you I still appreciate you taking my calls and to be able to talk about issues that matter. With this issue with Syria and Trump and stuff, I've watched the stories across the internet. I can't believe that people are still turning this into, it just seems that we've become this warmongering nation, Kevin. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans they don't agree on anything until we go to war. Then all sides are like, yeah, we've got to kill these people. Trump goes in, he says there was an alleged gas attack. Nobody operates off an alleged anything unless it's in the 21st century. And then no sooner than they strike the attacks, he's on Twitter saying, "Oh, it was most effective. We crippled their gas stuff." I mean, are we still so focused on bipartisan politics that we can't see what is truly happening? We have the United Nations. Nikki Haley comes out. She just basically goes out on a rail. And the problem that nobody sees, or one of the problems, is the fact that since the United Nations was created in 1945 to prevent war, we've done nothing but get into war. And the other thing about that, though, is that the United Nations was supposed to be the entity that actually protected other nations from war. And and the other nations are operating outside of the United Nations. So one should really ask themselves what the importance of the United Nations really is and what are they really up to.
Tom Munn's joining us, TomMunns.com. Now, I want you to try and dissuade me because my opinion is I'm with the president saying you can't let people use chemical weapons. I like everyone else, I saw the videos. I don't believe that they're not fake. I believe that they're legitimate. And I believe that we had to do the right thing to send a message. Otherwise, you're going to have a proliferation of chemical weapons throughout that region. Now, a lot of people say that that's happening already. But that's my view. How can you persuade someone like me that I'm wrong?
Kevin, I've tried for years to do that, and although we agree on a great many issues, you and I disagree highly on the military, and we actually disagree quite amazingly on our own Constitution. When you have a president that acts on his own, on the Constitution alone, if this country is going to act as a nation, we have to act within the powers and the restraints afforded to us without abusing other nations. And our Constitution, sorry to say, but unless you can prove that I'm wrong, there's supposed to be a congressional declaration of war, which there wasn't. And so doing the right thing apparently is relative to when we no longer are a nation of what we say that we're a nation of laws. We're not even a nation under our Constitution because it doesn't seem to matter. So can you prove to me that I'm wrong in the fact that a declaration of war should not supersede somebody's feelings and somebody's opinions?
Well, again, whether it's the War Powers Act or what have you, the president has the right to, go to war for 100 days or something of that nature?
Not without a declaration of war. It's a complete subversion of the Constitution. The War Powers Act, the United States Code does not supersede our Constitution.
Well,
or the Constitution would have said the United.
It's done that for years.
HR 10,000.
Now, wait a minute, Tom. I thought you were going to. No, Tom, this isn't fair. You're not letting me talk on the show.
All right.
I'm only laughing because it's the morning. If it were any other time, I'd be going, rah, 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 rah. Okay, duly noted. Now, I have to switch gears on you for a moment. All right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
How do you see the governor's race? Because you travel the state, you travel the region, you have no dog in this fight. How do you see the governor's race?
To be honest, if I were to declare a winner today, and it isn't my choice, and I need to make sure that I'm very, very clear about this, it would be the one that had the most signs up the earliest on, the one that seems like he's got no end to the amount of money that has backed him, and the one that speaks in the most generalities out of any candidate that I know. And so and people seem to fall for him like sugary, ooey gooey stuff. And so, you know, I commonly say that this man would win the election if there wasn't even if there wasn't an election, because it's being driven to me by something else.
Now, who are you talking about? Let's have a name.
Well, early on in some of the radio shows, I had mentioned how early some people's signs had gone up, as early as last year, and they're huge signs, and they're everywhere. And this guy's got ads on every radio station, it seems, TV, you know, social media. I can't reveal the name, but I'm pretty sure if you look around and you see the biggest signs everywhere.
Come on, Tom. You can reveal the name, Tom.
I can. So now you're going to get me involved in politics. I'm not even supposed to be in politics.
You're not. I'm just asking you for a barometer, not the count of signs. You talk to people.
Well, because I don't want to give people the wrong idea that they should be voting for him because I think that he's going to win. I want to make sure that people are very clear that I don't support the man, but I believe Tommy Ahlquist will win, I believe he would have won. He would have won without an election. Oh. And if I'm wrong, I would be absolutely stoked about that. I think we have a decent choice for governor, and that man knows who he is, and I'm defending him. So
Tom Munns, I've got to run, but thank you.
Hey, good talking to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't be a stranger. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.